my blog actually started with a sort of surge of anger at an event about eating disorders. So I was hearing about all these teenage girls all over the world who were harming themselves with food and dying of anorexia. And I'm about to turn 40 and I'm sitting on the toilet in the South Bank Centre and I'm squeezing my thighs. And I'm looking at my thighs and I'm thinking, they're a bit big. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm nearly 40. People are dying of eating disorders. Why am I worried about an inch on my thighs? And I got really angry. And I went home and I started writing. And that was the precursor to the blog, From 40 with Love.
Hi everybody, welcome back to This is Powerful with me, Paul Scolford. In this podcast, I speak to some incredible people about mindset, mental health, addiction and recovery. And I share my own journey throughout these conversations. So whether you're on your own path of self-discovery, recovery or transformation, inspired by human stories of mental resilience, or supporting someone who is struggling with addiction, make sure you follow and subscribe to This is Powerful. There'll be a new episode every Thursday. In these episodes, we will be talking about drug and alcohol misuse, suicide, sexual abuse, and some other heavy topics. So please take care when listening. Today we have a great guest, Katherine Baldwin, a former foreign correspondent and political journalist for the news agency Reuters. Katherine openly shares her experiences of an eating disorder, alcohol abuse, unhealthy relationship patterns, workaholism, and burnout in high-profile journalism career. Katherine Baldwin is a trauma-informed love and dating relationship coach and the author of How to Fall in Love. We speak about the tools Katherine acquired on a 22-year healing journey, now supporting others to overcome self-harm, love themselves, transform their relationships, and find healthy love. Katherine, welcome to This is Powerful.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I'd love to know where you're from.
Yeah, I was born in Liverpool. I was brought up by a single mum from the age of, I think my parents split up when I was 8, 9, officially. Prior to that, there was some trouble at home. But mum brought us up and I was a good girl. I did very well at school. I applied myself. I studied very hard. And I got a scholarship to a fee-paying school, private school, so a full scholarship to a private school, which was interesting coming from a single-parent family, being on full scholarship. And from there, I did well, studied really hard, went to Oxford University, where I was also mixing with very well-to-do people. So that's the start.
Was that your goal, or did your mum infuse that about education?
I think I knew I needed a way out. I think I made a decision very early on that I didn't want my mother's life. I can see this now. I didn't know it then. But my mum had, she was beautiful. She was very good at sport. She had wanted a career. And then she had 2 children and the marriage fell apart and money was tight. And she stopped the pursuit of a career and started working, having jobs and earning money. And I knew that money was tight, that mum wasn't happy. Mum was struggling with her own addictive behaviors. And I think at some point I decided I don't want this life. And mum also actually did have ambitions for me. I know she did, to travel and to see the world and to have a career and to have a different life from hers. And And then tied up in all that was the perfectionism, my perfectionism. If I'm perfect, maybe dad will come back. If I'm perfect, mum will be happy. So it's complicated.
I find that always gets me. And you wonder how smart emotionally kids are to try and sort out their parents at an early age, right?
Yeah, I think, well, I was definitely a very sensitive child. I picked up on all the cues and, what wasn't said, I picked up. I was very intuitive. And I don't know at what point I decided it was my job to make mum happy. Yeah. But that leads to, it got me far.
Yeah.
It got me far. I got the scholarship. I went to Oxford. I had a great career. It got me far. And we'll talk about the downsides of that. But there was a real drive. There's a real drive that this is my role.
In life, if you have a hard upbringing, especially if someone has addiction problems in the family, it's literally black and white. You either go down early and just suffer what's going on, or there's a little light inside you who's like, I'm going to get out of Dodge. I'm going to fight this way, and whether it's for education or business or whatever. Where do you think that comes from?
Survival.
Yeah.
Our inbuilt survival mechanism. And I wasn't, some people would go down that route, a more sort of self-harming route. I also went down that route, but it didn't look like it up to a certain point. So one of my first coping strategies was an eating disorder. I think it started with an addiction to Granny Smith's apples, the bright green ones that are really crunchy.
Yeah.
I would eat sort of 5 of them a day. And there was something about the crunch, and there was something about having something in my mouth to crunch, and the sweetness or the sour or the combination. And that's where I started. And that was because my memories go in houses, because we moved house a lot after my parents split up. Moved from that house to the flat to that house, and then so that particular house and those apples, I was 9, 10. So that's where I started to think that food can kind of change how I feel, and then I started restricting my eating. When everything is out of control, we look for control.
Yeah.
So if I restrict my eating and I restrict my weight and I stay as thin as possible, I'll be in control. I'll also look perfect, and then I'll be okay. I'll be safe. Dad will love me. Mum might be happier. And I think there was also something about repressing womanhood or puberty or adolescence, so I could stay the little girl.
That's interesting.
And by staying the little girl, maybe I could keep my dad.
That's important. It's so important, because a lot of girls, my oldest is 7 and a bit, and she's just started to look in the mirror, and she pinched her belly the other day, and I inhaled with, am I looking into that too much? Was she seen something, or what's that about?
That pinch, we are of the same generation, so you'll remember an advert for a particular cereal if you can pinch more than an inch.
Yep.
And so we're all going around like this, pinching. And that's ingrained in us from such an early age. And I was thinking this just coming here. I'm in the bathroom and I'm doing my hair and doing lipstick. And then if there was a guy next to me, he wouldn't be doing that. Most guys wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be taking quite so long.
Yeah.
I think the industry and all the messages that we've been getting from childhood, and now obviously there's social media, and I'm so grateful I didn't grow up with social media. I think that's a lot to manage. The comparison, not only the addiction to the screen, but then the comparison and the airbrushing and the changing of shape and so forth. I think that's really challenging for girls.
Yeah, if you're lost in any way or seeking something in any way, it must be difficult. I remember lots of programs and stuff when I was younger, but to have that at your hand and every 1 second there's a different image or a different thing, it must be really, really, really difficult.
Yeah, because we do it too, don't we? I mean,
I had a chat yesterday with an old friend of mine, actually, who's in unbelievably good shape. Like, he looks like he's been sculpted, and he's nearly my age. And he just said, I think I have some sort of eating disorder, and described like what you're saying. Like when I restrict something, I feel good.
yeah.
And it made sense because he's in incredible shape. And for me, it's, 55 is really hard to keep that look on in a healthy way.
You know, eating disorders, they are prevalent in men as well, and perhaps becoming more so. And the statistics for girls are going through the roof post-COVID.
Yeah.
But it's power. It's a sense of power, isn't it? A sense of power and control. So I'm going to control something. Well, I can't control all these other things, but I'm going to control this. What I discovered at the tender age of 16 is it's going to start controlling me. Well, it was controlling me before then, but I was on the restricting side. I was avoiding eating. I was pretending to eat. I was, in the morning, I'd put a few cornflakes in a bowl, put a bit of milk in, leave the house. So mum thinks I've had my breakfast. In school, I was on free school meals. So I just had this card, but I wouldn't get anything. I wouldn't eat anything. And then I'd come home and say, oh, I'm full. I've had a big lunch, and eat very little. And I did a lot of sport, and I would be almost fainting on the netball pitch. And then at 16, I went on an exchange trip to Spain. I was studying Spanish, and I went to Spain. I feel like I was a young 16 or vulnerable, sensitive 16-year-old. And I was lonely. I was frightened. I'd gone to speak Spanish, but I ended up in a tiny village in near Barcelona where they only spoke Catalan.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand what they were saying. And the family I was with, the girl I was matched with, actually, she was an older 16, but she wasn't too bothered that I couldn't understand. I felt so lonely, so lost. And I started eating then. It flipped. It flipped from restricting to binging. And we didn't have Nutella in our house in Liverpool, but in their house, they had jars of Nutella in the chocolate spread in the kitchen. And I would go to the bakery, eat a loaf on the way home, bring a loaf home. I was there for a couple of weeks, and I visibly put on weight at 16. And I came home, and one of my teachers said to me in the street, oh my gosh, what happened to you over the summer? Looking at my body. But at home, I don't think mum knew how to deal with it. So we didn't talk about it. So I was full of shame. I hated how I looked. I mean, it wasn't a massive difference, but I'd put on weight, and it's that time in sort of puberty as well where your body's changing. And I was full of shame, and that started the cycle of binge, starve, binge, starve, binge, starve, diet, binge, starve, run, exercise, run for years.
How long does a binge generally last? And once that's finished, is that when you kind of switch to I need to run, I need to not eat?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I suppose binges would vary in time. So at that age, 16, it was the bread from the bakery and the Nutella. I can't really remember what I was eating once I got home. But I do remember, university, binge drinking had already started, actually. So I had the binge eating and the binge drinking. So, I mean, binge drinking at 16, 17, 18, to the point where I'm vomiting a lot. And so a binge would last as long as it takes to eat all the food in front of me or in the house.
Right.
So when I was living, in my flat in London, I moved around a lot. I lived in Mexico, I lived in Brazil as a journalist. I moved back to London in my early 30s just before I started realize, well, I had already started to realize that I had an eating disorder. Prior to that, I was in denial.
What was the realization? Because it's quite a thing to go from denial to realizing. In my own experience, it's like someone's just turned a light on.
Yeah. If I just explain that my weight, so I'd put on a lot of weight at university. I was about 3 dress sizes bigger than I am now. And I always say it's not about the weight or the size. It doesn't matter how big or not, or curvaceous or not we are. It's about what's going on inside and how we're treating ourselves. But I wasn't happy several dress sizes bigger than I am now. I wasn't happy with that. And then, I traveled around a lot. I lost pretty much all the weight in Mexico and Brazil through compulsive exercise and diet pills, which were readily available from any private doctor. I don't even know what they said but they didn't have anything on the label, just some sort of amphetamine.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that, they didn't cause me any serious health issues. So I'd lost a lot of the weight, come back to London, and before that, I was in Brazil. I was turning 30, and I just started to tell people, my friends, I said, do you do this? Do you not eat anything all day? And then as soon as you open a box of cereal, which was my kind of binge food of choice by then because I was quite healthy, as soon as you open a box of cereal, you eat the entire box. Does that happen to you? Because that happens to me. And I started to tell a Brazilian friend of mine, a really lovely Brazilian friend who didn't have any issues with food. And we laughed about it. We thought it was quite funny that I would do this. I was still in denial about the pain that I'd caused myself over the years. But so I started telling her. She suggested a very eminent Brazilian psychotherapist who I saw briefly. And that kind of took the lid off the Pandora's box. That I remember sitting in group therapy in Brazil, in Portuguese, and saying that, my childhood was brilliant. Yeah, really happy childhood. Parents split up, but that was the best thing that could have happened. And that might have been the best thing that could have happened, but I wasn't conscious of all the chaos around that and its impact on me. So it's like I took the lid off the box and started to see, oh gosh, maybe things in my childhood had impacted me.
Was that kind of a curiosity, or was you thinking maybe this isn't good? That's why I'm going to ask.
I think I was starting to think maybe this isn't normal.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't normal. I mean, I would put myself in danger. I'd be driving and I'd be binging. I remember the early year or two when I was in London, when I was already, so I was early 30s. I'd come back from Brazil. I had some consciousness about binging, but I couldn't stop. And I'd walk from corner shop to corner shop, buying crisps, chocolate, filling up the bag, kind of pretending that I'm having a party. And then I'd go home and close the curtains and eat the whole bag. And then I'd hide the wrappers from myself. I lived on my own. I'd put them at the bottom of the bin.
Is that shame, do you think?
Yeah, the shame.
Yeah.
The shame. I mean, this was when it was getting to its extreme. Moments of, I would eat all the muesli with milk and yogurt, and then I'd run out of milk and yogurt, and I'd carry on eating these dry oats, and they won't go down because they're dry.
Yeah.
And I'm, clutching my stomach, rolling onto the floor, crying and crawling into bed.
I remember being 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when I've run out of drink and drugs, and I'm in my own bin, pulling out, at the time, this is 20 odd years ago, pulling out cigarette butts and trying to smoke them, but being too afraid to go out the front door to a shop to buy anything else because I'm so ashamed. And then waking up the next day at one point with that, a couple of guys I used to hang out with would wake up and have a joint. I would wake up and I just want to have fresh air, fresh lemon juice. I'd scrub myself off. I'd clean everything off. I'd go for a walk and try and inhale things, and I wouldn't drink tea or coffee. I'd have lemon juice, and I'd have no sugar in anything, and I'd be like, just need to clean myself up. Not doing that again. And then boom, total shift into, well, it's almost like being hijacked. I'm going to do this, and then find myself on this journey again.
So I had exactly the same pattern. It's not like I woke up the next morning and wanted to carry on eating. I wanted to get rid of everything. And fortunately, I never became very accomplished at vomiting, apart from after alcohol. When I really did vomit, I used to drink, and I was pretty much always sick. But I didn't vomit after eating very often. But I did run. So I would run around the park. So I would get up, not eat anything at all, run around the park and try and hold out all day without eating. As soon as you eat, if your mind's not in the right place, as soon as you eat, then that's it. You've pressed the button and you're off.
It's a continual kind of balancing act, isn't it? Just to try and find compensating for those times. And it's very nice to be free from all of that now, isn't it?
It is. I forget. I mean, I feel quite emotional talking about those times when I was eating dry oats. When I was reporting as a journalist, and I was in the Far East, and I was with Tony Blair, and when you know what you're doing to yourself, it's much more painful, isn't it? I was out of denial, and I knew what I was doing, and the stress of that job, of my journalism job, the only way I could get through that at the time was by binge eating. And I was in this 5-star hotel room in Tokyo, and I'm binging, and then I'm being invited to dinner by my colleagues. So I'm eating a massive banquet and drinking, and then I'm back to the hotel room and I'm eating everything in the minibar, all the chocolates on the pillows, everything. And then I'm crawling to bed crying. And the next morning, I'm looking in the mirror at my face, and all I can see is this balloon, puffy face. I feel horrendous. I feel awful. I hate myself. I really hate myself. Thank goodness not to live like that.
Yeah. And it's really lovely that you're going into schools and passing the message on to young girls. Did you always want to be a journalist? How did that come about?
There was a moment when I was watching TV, and you'll remember, some of your audience might remember Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, of course.
And there was a reporter called Kate Adie, and I watched that, and I thought, I want to be there. I want to be in the middle of the action. I want to be, and this is interesting now, coming from the perspective of someone who understands about addiction and nervous system regulation and addiction to drama and adrenaline. So to me, I did have a real sort of desire to get out there. I was very adventurous. I was quite courageous. So travel and adventure all appealed to me, and I was very good at languages. So that all fitted together. But also, show me where the bomb is going off and I'll go. Show me where the earthquake is happening. Can I go? So there was that adrenaline, chasing danger. Where's the danger? Can I go? I courted danger even before becoming a journalist. I traveled all around the world on my own, age 21, 2, 3. Hitchhiked on my own in Australia, got into strange cars with people I'd never met, bungee jumping, parachute jumping, all that. Yeah. In Mexico, sadly, I love Mexico, but I was held up with a gun. I was held up with a knife. And then we went to the pub, no big deal. And that was partly because I was putting myself in dangerous situations. Like, you don't get in a taxi off the street late at night, but I did several times, even after it had happened before. So courting danger, and then, I'm working and the bombs go off in London, and can I go? Yes, you can go. I had a Vespa, a little scooter. So I'm bombing all around London on my Vespa, trying to find the people who've who've done the bombings, the 7/7 bombings. I went to Madrid, earthquake in Haiti, tsunami. So can I go? But similarly, I am writing my story on the tsunami in Sri Lanka, absolutely terrified that I'm going to get the wrong word or the wrong sentence, or my boss is going to tell me off. And I'm an imposter and I'm a fraud and I don't deserve to be here. So I'm eating. I went to the tsunami in Asia where there wasn't a lot of food and put on weight because I'm finding peanuts and I'm eating them by the bag as I'm filing my story because I have so much fear. I have so much courage, so much adrenalized courage, but I have so much fear that I'm going to be told off. I'm going to lose my job. They're going to find out that I am the girl on free school meals or the single parent family. Because I went to a posh, as we say here, a posh school. I went to a posh university. I never felt like I belonged. And then I ended up in Parliament.
Hearing you say that, it's incredible because I always think of like these sort of big, bolshy characters to go and do stuff like that. So it's a very strong side as well.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love adventure, still in me, but it's finding a way to balance that, isn't it? But where we really want to get to is to manage that deep anxiety about showing up here, about will I say the wrong thing? What will people think?
What was important for you to really change? And now, for example, you're coaching, you help people with relationships and really important work, I believe, personally. What was the decision for that?
Yeah, there was a lot of meandering. There was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of what on earth am I doing with my life and what am I going to do with my life? So the burnout came in my just sort of late 30s, 36. My dad had died. That was a real shock. And looking back, I feel like, gosh, that's quite young to lose my dad. And also I didn't have a partner and my family were a long way away. So I think that was a pretty lonely experience and a difficult experience. But it was also a real sort of thunderbolt of, when I lost my first parent and you start thinking, what's my life? What am I doing? Like, I've got a great CV, but there's nobody by my side. I don't have a partner. Maybe there are other things in life that I want besides these accolades, this job title. So it was a kind of existential crisis after my dad died. And I'd been on my healing journey for a while there from an eating disorder, but I was still quite new. I took a little bit of time off after my dad died, tried to go back to work. I'm flying to Afghanistan with Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and I'm thinking, I can't do this anymore. It didn't bring me to life anymore. It made me feel dead inside, completely dead inside. So what other people would think, wow, she's in Downing Street or she's in Parliament or she's on a plane with a Prime Minister, it had lost its shine completely. I knew that I wasn't able to do that job and take care of myself anymore. So, and it was pointed out to me that I was pretty depressed. And so I got signed off work. And that was a year after my dad died, after I'd been soldiering on. So I got signed off work and then tried to go back and realized actually totally cannot do this anymore. Fortunately, was offered voluntary redundancy, which I took immediately. And then it wasn't like, wow, I'm free. It was, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Like, I haven't got my job anymore. I don't really know how to manage large amounts of money. What else am I going to do? So it took some meandering. I did a bit more journalism. I suppose one of my saviors was a blog that I started writing. So I started writing a blog from my heart, honestly, truthfully, authentically, just writing down what I felt. I was 40. My blog was called From 40 with Love. I was 40, I was single, I'd lost my way, and I didn't have a clue. And I didn't have kids. And there was no man on the scene, no prospect of having kids. And I started writing that.
Wow.
And it was amazing because women started reading it and saying, oh my gosh, you're telling my story. This is so powerful. Please keep writing. So I started writing about all this stuff. And
did you expect that response, or was that just you needed sort of the urge to use your skills and write and sort of express that?
Yeah, I suppose I didn't, it was this kind of early days of blogging. Didn't know if anyone was going to read. My blog actually started with a sort of surge of anger at an event about eating disorders. So I was hearing about all these teenage girls all over the world who were harming themselves with food and dying of anorexia. And I'm about to turn 40 and I'm sitting on the toilet in the South Bank Centre and I'm squeezing my thighs and I'm looking at my thighs and I'm thinking, they're a bit big. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm nearly 40. People are dying of eating disorders. Why am I worried about an inch on my thighs? And I got really angry and I went home and I started writing, and that was the precursor to the blog From 40 with Love. I wrote for 40 days. So I wrote through Lent initially, and it was, I'm going to give up negative thinking about my body for the next 40 days. It was called Just As I Am, an experiment in self-acceptance.
How honest were you on the blog? And for those listening, because this is really important actually, to give yourself a break from negative thinking, when you started to watch your thoughts, did you realize how much they were, and how did you change that?
Yeah, I was totally honest on that blog, and it was shocking to realize how much of my day I spent in critical thinking about myself, and how I walked down the street and looked at myself in a car window and passed judgment on myself. The look of how my face looked or how my body looked. And it's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing journey changing that, I have been healing from an eating disorder for 22 years. I am 54, so I had more years. Well, if we include the ones when I was very young, but it's a long journey, like learning to look at yourself and love yourself as a woman, especially, I think, especially as we age and as our bodies change and our skin changes and everything changes, to continue to love yourself and to appreciate yourself and not judge yourself. It is an ongoing journey because we are the age that we are, and we have lived, and our bodies show signs of living, don't they? And it's so important, isn't it? Because, I look back at how I looked, 10 years ago, and what was I worried about? And we'll do the same, in 10 years' time, we'll look back and think, what was I worried about? What a waste of our energy.
I'd love to jump into relationship coaching, if that's okay. How did you become a relationship coach?
I became a relationship coach because I learned how to have a relationship after, and I mean a committed, intimate relationship, because I had had lots of relationships before. And I really had to figure myself out, understand my fears, understand my patterns. And I learned so much. And when you have this information and that other people need it too, and you just have to get it out there. So I wrote a book and I started coaching people around relationships. My main awakening was understanding that I was terrified of relationships, and I didn't know that. I had been dating and having relationships throughout the years. Often they had been with emotionally unavailable people, which when I was binge eating and binge drinking, etc., I didn't really notice because I wasn't at all available. But then when I started becoming more conscious and healing, I started to think, what's going on here? Why do I keep attracting or being attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable, who don't want to commit. And the good guys, the ones who are stable and reliable and want to be with me, why do I run a mile? Or why do I find fault with them and nitpick and their shoes or their clothes or their hair or their accent or the way they eat their dinner drives me mad. And I had to dig really deep and understand that I had this subconscious fear of love, intimacy, commitment, relationship, because my first experiences of those things had been painful. So Dad moves out. I think it's my fault. I think I'm not lovable. That is incredibly painful. I can't connect emotionally to my mum, to either parent. I thought that was my fault. That was painful. So relationships have been really painful. Why would I want to do that again? But at the same time, I do want that, because we all want, I want to be seen. I want love. I want to be loved. So I want it, but I don't want it. So I'm in the push-pull all the time. I want you, but I don't want you. So, come here, let's date. Oh no, don't come too close. Or you deliberately or subconsciously pick people who are addicts, alcoholics, active, who are addicted to their work, who are afraid of commitment, who let you down, who are flaky, who mistreat you, who don't value you properly. And it was a lot of pain. It was a lot of pain. And it took a lot of growth and healing to see what was going on and get through it. And, my now wonderful husband, who is solid as a rock, stable, reliable, kind, loving, supportive, all the things I would have thought boring. Boring. Give me someone edgy. Give me someone who messes me around. That's who I liked before. But, I pushed him away 2 or 3 times. So, in my book, I write about this. We got together. We had a connection. No, I'll go and look for someone else. We got together again. Oh, this is really nice. No, I'll go and look for someone else. There must be someone better. There must be someone better. And I found fault with him. He's not this, he's not that. I need somebody who's more like this. And so I really had to understand all this. I was looking for a carbon copy of myself, and that would have been a disaster. I was afraid of really going there with someone, of doing the adult, grown-up commitment relationship thing. I was afraid of that. And I had a lot of messages from my childhood as well that, in my subconscious, that marriage equals divorce. Marriage equals woman is trapped. Marriage equals end of your career, all that. So I had to work through all that as well. And, a lot of people I coach, and I coach a lot of women and men, but I do coach a lot of women who are very like me, who've had similar big careers, uber independent, self-sufficient, and they have similar patterns. They are drawn to unavailable men. They push away the people who are available and want to be with them, and they need to soften, become more vulnerable, understand what they're afraid of, and with support, move towards what we do. I love talking about this. Is there's the thing that hurt us. There's the fire that burnt us. And we avoid that for a long time, don't we? Because we remember that it hurts. When we lay our foundations and build our self-esteem and understand our fears, we can then start walking towards that fire, but in a completely different condition to when we were first burnt. So we are taking care of ourselves. We have better boundaries. So the thing that burnt us, the love, the experience of relationship, we can move towards that and we can have a different experience. And Because, these intimate relationships, they remind us of our earliest relationships, don't they? With our caregivers. And often we got hurt, we got let down, we got abandoned, we got rejected. And we carry all that. Will I be abandoned? Will I be rejected? What if they see me? What if they see all of me? What if they find out that I'm not good enough? So, but it's possible, and I speak from experience, to overcome all this. I never thought that I would get married. I just thought I was a hopeless case. And a lot of people come to work with me, say, I'm a hopeless case. They are not hopeless cases. They go through this process with me and they understand their fears and their patterns, and they start changing their patterns and facing their fears, and amazing things happen. Many of us build these fortresses around us, don't we? And I did, and a lot of people do. Got to stay safe. I've got to earn all the money. I've got to build my career, often careers we don't want anymore. But we've got this fortress. And it is all about vulnerability. It's all about allowing ourselves to be honest, to be real, to be seen, to make a mistake. The amazing thing about my now husband is he read my blog before we got together. He had read my self-acceptance blog, so he knew that I'd been writing for 40 days about all my self-criticism and my eating disorder and my self-esteem and my self-hate. And then my next blog, From 40 with Love, which was about being single, lost, clueless, not having kids. Do I want kids? I don't know if I want kids. He read all of that. So he knew all my murky stuff. He was still up for being with me. And he saw it all. And he's like, makes you more interesting.
That's beautiful. Katherine, we've got to leave it there now. Thank you so much for our conversation.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure.
This is Powerful is brought to you by Stride Foundation. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please head over to www.stridefoundation.com, where you can find links to resources that may help. You can also donate. Please make a donation. It will help us bring to you more episodes. Please rate, follow, and subscribe to the show. Why? This will help the algorithm make us more visible to others who need help. And share this podcast with your family, friends. Head over to social media at Paul Scolfort and at this_is_powerful. You'll get to see what's coming up, and you can get in touch with us because I love hearing about you. Thank you also to my beautiful wife, Dr. Federica Amati, the best producer, Shannon Delwich, to Ebba Long, who does all the hard work in the background. Thank you also to Rian Musa and the rest of the team. Hi everybody, I'd really love to hear your views so that we can produce a podcast with the content that matters to you. It doesn't matter if you just joined us or if you've been listening from the start. We would love you to fill in the short listener feedback form, which you can find in the show notes. And let me know your thoughts on our podcast. It would really mean a lot. Thanks, guys.